Hello. Back to David John Walter, Petition of Right, and we are into part 2 from page 10. As you can see, I highlighted, and this is page 10, which we're talking about now. Now, the main one, as we talked about what's happening 14th of February 1966, the company called the Commonwealth of Australia, which was the legit one, totally closed its doors and has not conducted any trade or commerce for the past 54 years on behalf of the shareholders. So this book, Petition of Right, was written in 2020. So from 1966 till 2020, it's actually 54 years. Now, and obviously it was set up by the Liberal Party, the foreign nation, Elisabeth II, Queen of Australia. And the Australian government is a unicameral Parliament of Australia operating from inside their own private premises, privately built and financed Parliament House of Australia, which officially opened the business in 1988. It's a private business, it's a private corporation, okay, and it's operating as a business. Now, if you go back in introducing the Australian decimal currency, 14th of February 1966, registered political parties, the Chief Executive Officer of the Australian Government and the Prime Minister of Australia, Bob Hawke MP, right, as the holder of the Australian Citizenship Act 1948, the Governor-General Act 1974, the Royal Australian Titles Act 1973, and the Commonwealth Electoral Act 1918, Currency Act 1965. Okay, so this acts, it all goes together with the private political parties, okay. In 1988, the Parliament House of Australia, so named the corporation headquarters of the elected members of the registered political party, was officially opened. 1988, okay, for all commerce and trade, the name of Australian government, okay. So the Australian government is a private corporation. The Prime Minister Bob Hawke, which is the Chief Executive Officer in that time, seal of the Australian government is affixed to the Governor-General Amendment Act 1988. Can you see this seal? Okay, this seal, there's no contract under this seal, okay. I got a better name for that, but probably not a good one to mention it here. Now, assented, that's not a royal assent, okay, so just please don't mix it up with the royal assent. So being enacted by the Queen and the Senate House of Representatives, Commonwealth of Australia as follows. So there is two Commonwealths of Australia. One is the Commonwealth of Australia with the people, and another one is the Commonwealth of Australia with the corporation with all caps. Now, the Northern Empire Consolidated Revenue Fund of the salary of the Governor-General shall be $95,000. Okay, if we don't have consolidated revenue, guys, there should be only pound sterling and pounds, okay, which was finished back in 14th of February 1966 when they closed up the Commonwealth of Australia with the small caps. Okay, so what is Queen of Australia? Who is Queen of Australia? Queen of Australia is a piece of paper. It's a debt fictitious entity. Read it through. This is in page 12. It talks about the letters patent, okay. Grace of Queen of Australia, okay. This is again the wrong seal, okay. The private seal, sorry. Wrong seal, private seal, whatever you want to call it. And it's basically just talks about the Queen of Australia, which is a debt fictitious entity. It goes back again to the 19th of October 1973. Now, Your Majesty the Queen again refused to grant, okay, or sign that's Royal Australian title, as you also did on 19th of October 1973. You personally signed about the seal held by Bob MP, Hawke MP, again in 1988, some 22 years after. Okay, so 1966. 1988, okay, so just remember, because this is very important, okay, so the Queen never approved that seal. This seal has never been approved, okay. This is only a private corporation, private acts, private members, private corporations. So if you are a member of a private political party, you are bound by these rules, bound by this corporation, okay. So that's a private seal, I'm just letting you know. Now, then it talks about the 1988 Act, okay, assented. This is not the royal assent. Now, the last royal assent was in 1960, okay, and after that we don't have royal assent from the Queen. So all the acts and legislations are statutory law, okay, statutory revision acts, okay, it's all acts, acting, how we acting today. Now, Justice Pension Act 1968, again, it's the wrong seal, wrong seal, wrong seal. Okay, so I mean the wrong seal is a private seal, okay, so this seal If you're gonna have a look, which I'm gonna show you soon, when Queen Elizabeth signed above the seal, and this is the seal which we are talking about. Now there is the Bankruptcy Amendment Act 1991, subordinate legislation or statutory law, whatever you want to call it, education purposes. This is all for education purposes and not for gain purposes. Okay, you can read through the Chief Executive in the Parliament of Australia or the Australian government is a private person elected member of the political party known as the Prime Minister of Australia and the holder of the seal of Australian government, which are affixed to the Australian Citizenship Act 1948, Commonwealth Electoral Act 1918, Royal Style and Titles Act 1973, and the Currency Act 1965, and trading as a private Australian business in Australian decimal currency. Since 14th of February 1966, and the holders of the seal affixed to the Government Business Enterprises Miscellaneous Reforms Act 1988. On the 29th September 1966, the elected representative of the Australian government entered into a private business agreement. Can you see this one? Private business agreement with the foreign Queen Elizabeth II, the Queen of Australia, head of the Commonwealth, in a private financial agreement between all parties to be able to borrow a foreign currency, Australian decimal currency. By the way, the financial agreement, Decimal Currency Act number 39, 1966, Elisabeth II, housing. Okay? Private business. What is it? Private business. There's the Queensland Constitution Act 1867. Okay? In Queensland, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II is the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly and the holder of the Constitution Act 1867 refused to allow for the introduction of the Australian decimal currency to replace the legal tender, pound sterling, pence and finance trade in Queensland is held to the Constitution Act 1867 and hold under contract the seal. This is the Queensland seal. Okay. Sorry, the main one, not the, okay. So this again, the private seal, okay, introducing the Currency Act 1966, okay, and you can see that this acts and legislations and Statutory Law Revision Act 1973, assent 19 December 19, so it's all assent, not a royal assent, okay, so don't mix up the royal assent with the assent, okay, because this is all assented, okay. Now the Currency Act 1965, this is a federal one. You see again, it's under the private seal. Now I think I got it here when Queen Elizabeth signed. If you look it up, the 1973 Royal Style and Titles Act, when Queen Elizabeth actually signed above the seal. Am I gonna be in a different page? Am I gonna go a little bit ahead? But that's okay. I just want to show you that how Queen Elizabeth, there you go, 1973, she signed above the seal. Okay, so this is the Royal Style and Titles Act 1973. You can see she signed above the seal. This seal has never been approved. This is a private seal. This is the private political party. It's a private corporation with the private acts, okay? So you have to remember this is very, very important to comprehend this seal, because this seal never been approved by the Queen, okay? So, well, that's all for today, okay? And just roughly I'm going through, guys, because I want you to make sure that you comprehend this petition of right, because this is so important. It's crucial. It's very important that you know what's happened 14th of February 1966 and 19th of October 1973, and that there is a Constitutional Commission report was done in 1988. I strongly recommend you to get it and read it, because that's crucial one. Okay, peace and love to you all.